It was pitch black, and I ended up in this marsh or swamp or something. And I look up, and there's these angels in the water with me. They were beams of light, but they were glowing lights. And they were lighting my path as we ran.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God, we see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter, like in this one with angels. Divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome. Episode 201, Angels in the Woods. Yes. I always feel like I could say this episode is a little different because they all are, but they all have some similar qualities to them. But this is a bit different. And I want you to be aware that in this episode, Karen, not her real name, wants to die, tries to die, and God says no. A reminder of the name of the program, Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. And there is a God moment at a key moment here, a powerful story, this story about Karen. And a reminder that none of us are to judge anybody else. Only God can do that. I don't know how you got to where you are, nor you of anybody else or me. We don't know. Only God knows the whole picture. And we know that God looks at each and every one of us with such love and compassion and mercy. He is mercy. And Karen never thought about taking her life before. This was one of those, it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. She flipped, and this is not a case of a suffering high schooler or college student. This is a grown woman. This is a mother of two. What could be so bad that she thought that they and the world would be better without her? This is the moment when God sends His angels into the woods.
Hey.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
It's a beautiful day. How about where you are?
Yes, it is. I went for a 6-mile walk on a trail near me this morning. It was gorgeous. It's funny because I walk on this trail every day, and I would listen to the true crime and paranormal podcasts, and I would feel nervous and anxious and looking over my shoulder. Everybody that passed me on the trail, I'd look at suspiciously. So now I listen to the Touched by Heaven podcast when I'm walking. I was suddenly filled with peace, and when everybody passed me, I'd look at them with love, and it was just a completely different feeling.
And when you started listening, did you already know that you had stories, or did it just kind of reminded you that you have stories?
No, I knew that I have stories. We had an experience too. I'll tell another small story. This one's a smaller one. When we lived in Idaho as children from age 7 to 14, I have a twin sister, and we would carpool to school every day. Big parents, our friends' mothers would rotate and drive us to school. It was the middle of winter and there's a lot of snow out in Idaho. One of our friends' moms had picked up my sister and I and were driving us through this alley to get out on the road. And she drove over this snowbank and got to where the car was just teetering on top of the snowbank. The tires weren't on either side weren't touching the road on either side. And so the mother had us girls get out and try to push the car. We couldn't push it. We were 12 at the time, I believe. And so she told my sister to get in the car. So she figured she was stronger than us. And she told my sister to get in the car, and she was going to push, and just for her to just if we got it over, put on the brakes and put the car in park. Well, of course, my sister's 12. She has no idea how to drive, but she was like, okay, I'll get in there and drive. So the mom gets out. We're able to push the car off of the snowbank, and then my sister just keeps on going down the road, down the alley, and she realizes she doesn't know where the brakes are. She doesn't know how to put the car in park. She doesn't know anything, but she was able to turn the steering wheel once she got to the main road. But unfortunately, she was going the wrong way down a one-way road. And we're chasing her down, and she's speeding up because she's got her foot on the gas. And there's this other car coming down the road, towards her, and there's cars parked on the side of the road, so there's really nowhere for anybody to go. And the mom is praying out loud as we're running after her, and then all of a sudden, the car that my sister was driving slowed down and pulled and parked on the side of the road. And when we caught up to my sister, she was just sitting there with her hands in her lap, looking down at her hands, and she said something just took the wheel and guided her to the side of the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a wow.
That is a wow. So
We've had that kind of story happen so many times. We don't think about, a 12-year-old. Angel hands are needed even more so. So there was here comes an oncoming car, and she just pulls over and out of the way. And
she said, I didn't do it. She came again, a peace came over her, and she just took her hands off the wheel, and God guided it to the side of the road and parked the car. So
that's a lot better than a Google car. That's a lot better. Telling you. Wow.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The big one, the one where I attempted suicide, I've wanted to share it, but I've been afraid to share it. I've told my family, but I don't necessarily want people to know that I attempted suicide. People I come in contact with every day, and plus, I know in the Christian world, it's frowned upon.
Well, it's one of those deals where, it's frowned upon everywhere. Once upon a time in the Christian world, it was almost like saying, well, they're going to hell, that kind of stuff. And now we realize nobody, literally in their right mind does that. And you're not. Anybody who does it isn't quite right for a variety of reasons. It can be medical, it can be chemical, it can be whatever it is, psychological. So whatever, and we'll find out what that was. But whatever it is, God has more mercy than we can ever understand. Yeah. So God bless you for wanting to share the story. A little bit about your background. Did you grow up in a faith-filled family, or not so much? What's your story?
I did. Non-denominational Christian. And my mom, my parents divorced when I was young, and my mom raised us in the non-denominational Christian church. So I've always been there. I don't go to church as often as I should. Don't like going by myself, and that's part of the reason that I pulled away. I don't want to say pulled away. I just haven't gone, because I would go by myself and I'd get sad because I was used to. Well, part of the reason that that I attempted suicide, I was extremely depressed. I had gone through a divorce that I did not want, and could not pull myself out of the depression at all. And I would try to go to church, but being there by myself without my family made me sad, and so I kind of pulled away in that regard. But I always prayed and always, listened to my praise and worship music. I had been married for 15 years, and my husband decided he wanted to get a divorce, and I did not want that. We had 2 kids, and I was just devastated. And so for 4 years, I just suffered with deep depression and anxiety, and I couldn't come out of it. And I went to doctors and was put on medication and counseling, and nothing seemed to help. And I prayed every night, and then one day, and I was struggling. I was pretty much financially dependent on my husband. I was a brand new nurse, and was having to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. And that was overwhelming to me, and wanting to spend more time with my children than I could because of the 2 jobs. And then the final straw was, I had just bought a new house, and in the summer, very hot and humid, and my AC unit went out, and I called somebody to come and repair it, and he said it would cost about $6,000, which I did not have. So I went to the bank to get a loan, and they wouldn't give me the loan, and that was kind of the final straw. That was just the last thing that I couldn't handle it anymore. So I came home, and I overdosed. I took a bunch of pills that I had, a lot of stuff. And then I decided that I did not want to be found at my home by my kids or my loved ones. So I got in my car and started driving, and I felt myself fading pretty quickly from the pills I took. So I went and I pulled into these woods and grabbed a plastic bag from my car and went and ran off into the woods, and then laid down, put the bag over my head, and I guess fell asleep. And I prayed, though, right before. I said, God, I'm so sorry. I know you say you won't give us more than we could handle, but I've failed you. I just couldn't handle it anymore. And then I fell asleep. And it turns out I was there in the woods for 3 days and 2 nights. And then I woke up in the middle of the night after the third night, and was like, I've got to get to my kids. I've got to get to my children. So I took off running, and it was pitch black, and I ended up in this marsh or swamp or something, and which I must have been running in the wrong direction, because when I went in the woods, I did not go through a marsh or a swamp. And I remember I was terrified, and I pulled my arm up out of the water, and I saw something on my arms, and I thought they were leeches, and I started screaming, leeches. And then all of a sudden I heard this voice in my head that said, not leeches. And I look up, and there's these angels in the water with me. And they had somehow mental telepathy, or however, spoken to me, said not leeches, which suddenly I'm full of peace. And I look at my arm, and I realize that they're leaves rolled up on, wet leaves on my arm. And they lead me out of the marsh, and I'm walking, and I'm just overwhelmed with peace now. I want to say there were like 5 or 6, because they were constantly moving in front of me, beside me, behind me. And we were running, mind you, in front of me, beside me, behind me, just constantly moving. And every time they moved quickly, it was like this. They were beams of light. They were a little bit shorter than me, but they were glowing lights, and they were lighting my path as we ran.
Of the winged variety or not?
They did not have wings.
Right.
No, they did not have wings. And the peace that I felt was just so, and after feeling the way I had for the past 4 years, that was such a relief. And so we're running, and now I'm in a very giddy mood, and I keep talking to them, but they're not talking to me. And then I trip and fall, and I just wanted to stay there because the peace was so overwhelming. I just wanted to stay there and go back to sleep. But then they said, get up. I heard that in my head, get up. Started running again. And then the next thing I know, I'm no longer in the woods. I'm walking on this street, and I look around, and they're gone. They're completely gone. And I turn around to look behind me, and there's a police officer pulling up behind me. And I remember walking up to his car and asking him if he'd take me home. But then apparently I collapsed there on the street. I ended up in the ICU for about 5 days. But what was weird, another weird thing, is the street that I was walking on when they found me was miles away from where I was in the woods. So I don't know if the angels guided me to this street where a police officer was going to be pulling up right at that time, or what, because it was still in the middle of the night.
But you don't feel you traveled that far?
No, I knew I didn't travel that far. And I also was barefooted. When I went into the woods, I had flip-flops on. But when I got up and started running, I was barefoot. And I can't imagine running or walking barefoot as many miles as I ended up.
So you go running into the woods. I'm done. Yeah, I have kids, but I can't handle life. I've got family around. They'll be okay. You've rationalized it best you can, and you think you're about to be gone forever. And you wake up. How many days later?
It was 3 days and 2 nights later.
That's crazy. I mean, what do doctors say? How did you not die? What happened?
Well, that's what the doctor told my sister because she was there, and he said that there was no way without a miracle that I would have survived all that I took. I didn't tell him that I had put the bag over my head. I didn't tell anybody that till later. Um, but he said just with all that I took, overdosed on, that there's no way I would have survived it. And then the condition I was in when I was brought into the hospital, that I could have survived it without a miracle.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Let's pause right about here. Then more with Karen and Angels in the Woods, episode 201. Still to come. What does she say to the kids? What do they say to her? More about the angels, too, their appearance and what they were doing in the woods, leading her out to the road, to the police car, all of that. That's still to come. Quick Patreon shout out here to Sonia Dovigi, or Dovigi. Either way, Sonia, we thank you. Down under, yes, from up over, we thank you down in Australia. Thanks, Sonia, for being with us, listening, and supporting what we do on Patreon. If you'd like to join the Patreon family yourself, then just come here to episode 201 and click your way through, or go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack. And thank you so much for your consideration. Now, let's get back to more with Karen. Angels in the Woods, here on Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God.
It wasn't easy afterwards either. Once I came out of the hospital, but God led me in different directions. Well, I was a nurse, and nurses, nurses and doctors, if they attempt suicide, the doctors have to notify the board of nursing or the board of doctors or whatever. And then the board of nursing has to notify your employer, and pretty much you're fired after that. So I was fired from my job, which was devastating to me, and I was unemployed for a month. But then after a month, I found a job. I got a job where I was making almost 3 times as much money as I was making before the suicide attempt, when I was struggling with anxiety and the depression.
And the money issues and all that stuff.
The money issues, yeah.
What were you doing? What did the new job give you?
It was nursing also, but just making a lot more money. And it was only one job. I only had to work the one job and not the 2 to make ends meet. So I was able to get my kids together, and I was hooked up with another doctor. I'm good now. I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious. Everything's good. And I just feel like, yes, God gave me more than I could handle. But when I got out of it, he put me in the right places with the right people I needed to be with to come out of it. And I'm so thankful, because my kids have needed me so much over the past few years.
How many years ago was this?
This was in 2014, 7 or 8 years.
The skeptic will say, well, you're obviously still on drugs, you're hallucinating, you're seeing angels, you think they're communicating with you, yada, yada, yada. Has anyone, not that you've told the world about this, but what's your response?
And that's the thing. My family has believed me. I have told a few other people, and that's their response. You were hallucinating. You were on drugs. Are you sure? But the reason I don't feel that I was is because of the overwhelming peace that I felt the minute that they showed up by my side. It just was instant. It was wonderful. It was so describe the peace that I felt when they were there. And then the minute when they were gone, when I was on the road and the police officer was pulling up behind me, and my anxiety came back and everything. And it was the skeptics that kind of stopped me from telling my story. Yeah. I want to share it because I want people to know that God is there and that he loves you, even if you feel you fail him. I definitely wouldn't recommend suicide to anybody by any means.
No, it's a horrible.
It's a horrible experience.
It's a horrible way to go. Yeah, it's a horrible way to go. As you're laying there and, you've got the drugs in you, You're checking out. You're trying to confirm that with the bag. I mean,
Yeah.
at the same time, you're in prayer.
Yes, I was talking to God.
You're talking to God. Absolutely.
Yeah. And another thing about the angels is I'd never met them, never seen them before in my life, never met them, but I felt that I'd known them for all my life.
Familiarity.
Yes. Yeah.
Angels that are always around you, angels that were in heaven when you came down here, you wonder.
Yeah.
Your children are how old at that point?
At that point, they were 10 and 13, or 10 and 13. I called my sister. I pretty much told her what I was going to do, so I put her in a rough spot, a very worrisome spot, as I did for everyone
So she's
disappearing like that.
freaking that you're and then suddenly you disappear.
Right, because I called her and told her to pick the kids up from school, because I normally pick them up, and I called her and told her I couldn't take life anymore. I just couldn't take life anymore. I couldn't take it, and she came and got my kids, and she called the police and told them what I was going to do, and so I was a missing person for 3 days and 2 nights, and I hate the fact that I left my kids, and I'm so grateful now that God saved me.
What was that conversation like, if you remember? Was it while you were in the ICU? When do you finally kind of have a talk with God?
It was actually when I got home, and I had left my cell phone at home because I didn't want people to be able to trace it to find me. So I had left my cell phone at home, and when I got home and I looked at my cell phone and saw all the text messages from my kids saying, "Mommy, where are you? Mommy, please come home. Mommy, we miss you. And Mommy, we love you. Please come home." I was just so grateful to God, and I thanked him then that I didn't leave my children.
What's your conversation with your kids at that point? Because they ultimately find out what's been going on.
Yeah, they ultimately found out I actually told them. I sat them down in my bed because people were walking on eggshells around me after that. My kids, I could tell, didn't know what to say or do, because we weren't speaking about it. And I finally, I sat them down in my bed and I told them what I had been going through, because I was hiding it pretty well. My family didn't know how depressed and anxious I was, because I was hiding it pretty well, and I was able to go to work every day and function. So I explained to my kids what I'd been feeling, and that I just couldn't take it anymore, and that I was sorry I left them. And they cried, and I did tell them the story about the angels, and they believed me and were, of course, grateful that I had come back.
7 years down the road now, any other nudges to try that again, or was that a one-time shot?
No, that was a one-time shot. No, I would never do that again. And what was funny, if you want to call it funny, is I wasn't even suicidal the years before then. Before that I was going through this, I wasn't suicidal. It was that last straw when I couldn't get when the bank wouldn't give me a loan to get my air conditioning fixed. That was just it. It was like a snap. I snapped, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And not since it, not before, and not since have I had any more ideations.
Yeah, and out of God's great mercy, somehow you get a job that I assume you then paid for your AC by yourself.
Yeah. Well, actually, my dad came through with the AC. So now, if any problems happen with the house, I'm able to handle it myself.
And obviously, this is not a solution, and we know that. This topic has come up a number of times through the episodes, and that there is God's mercy, and things happen, and and God has mercy. He certainly has had with you. I guess it's just a message for all of us to understand that as horrible as a solution that we think that is, God sees why. And in your case, that prayer, you never give us more than we can handle. And he got you through it.
Yeah. Yep, he did.
Back to the angels again. Kind of a last reminder that we have angels, and in some cases, special assignment angels, because you certainly had more than your guardian angel there. Anything else you want to reflect on as they were in the water, above the water, however all that worked?
Yeah, they were in the water with me. I was up to probably chest deep, and they were also up to chest deep or a little more because they were a little shorter than me. All of them were. And then as we got out, they, of course, were running alongside of me. And it was neat when they ran because, like I said, they would come front of me, beside me, behind me, in front of me, but just back and forth, all of them at different times. So I'm not sure exactly how many there were the whole time. But when they ran, just like wisps of light would come out behind them, like you would see in a cartoon or a cartoon as the people take off running and the cartoon characters take off running, and these beams of light or whatever you want to call them would come off behind them. It was just, I don't know, it was amazing. Just beams of light and the overwhelming peace.
Yeah.
That was God.
Wow. What's our takeaway? What do you think?
I just want people to know, one thing that I've always been concerned about is that, they say that people who attempt suicide will go to hell, like you said, or they used to. And that was my fear when I laid down that day in the woods. I was talking to God, and I told him I was, I'm sorry I failed you, but I don't want to go to hell. I did say that too. And I just feel like maybe there's hope for people who maybe get some hope out of this, that God is always with us, even if we feel we fail him and give up on ourselves and on life. But God is still with us, and to just stick with it, and God's going to work things out. He'll take the wheel if you give it up to him.
Thanks, Karen. He'll take the wheel. Just give it up to him. Tying the two stories together, you have her sister. She knew her hands shouldn't be on the wheel. Let someone else drive, and that's true in all of our lives, isn't it? So, and it ties in again as I put the final touches on this episode. As I put it together this morning, I woke up to a song, then spiritualized the lyrics. I didn't understand where this was going. Now I do. The song that bubbled up seemingly out of nowhere, and we know where that nowhere is. The Cars. Who's going to drive you home tonight? Whose hands are on the wheel, right? The lyrics, some of the lyrics are, who's going to tell you that it's too late? Who's going to tell you that that things aren't too great? You can't go on thinking that nothing's wrong. Who's going to drive you home tonight? Who's going to pick you up when you fall? Who's going to pay attention to your dreams? Who's going to come around when you break? You can't go on thinking that nothing's wrong. Who's going to drive you home tonight? Whose hands are on the wheel? Who are we allowing to drive our cars? Beyond Google, right? So, and that's Jesus, of course, allowing Jesus to take the wheel. So, a great little lesson there in the music of the Cars. Not an easy story to share. So, thanks for reaching out, and once again, just showing us God's mercy. Again, how we're not to judge. Only God knows the whole story. All of that. An easy question that one could ask is, okay, why her? Why not somebody else? Why was she saved? And you could drive yourself crazy about that. Job, in the Bible, Job drove himself crazy too. And his friends did as well. Why? Well, this must mean this or that. We don't know. Maybe it was just mercy of the kids. I don't know. We don't know. Only God knows. He's the one that knows all the puzzle parts and pieces. He's the only one. And all we know is we thank God that Karen is still with us, that her kids, that her family still have Karen. We thank God for his mercy and showing us God's mercy in this episode. Thank you so much again. Now, what is your story? Pray tell. Let me know here at touchedbyheaven.net. And while you're here, you ought to hit the stay. What do we call it? Stay in touch. I think that's what we call it. I should go look more often. Stay in touch. That's our weekly newsletter with other Touched by Heaven type stories. So take care of that. Also, you may want to grab a CD or a download. Did you hear what God just said? It's all about these conversations that God has been having with us since the beginning. Conversations with you and me and the church and the world. And a lot of times we're missing what he's saying. Did you hear what God just said here at episode 201? Or Mary, his messenger. Jesus keeps sending mom to places like Lourdes and Fatima, places like Mexico City with the Our Lady of Guadalupe image, plus some kind of interesting personal stories of my own in there as well. Mary, his messenger, as a download or a CD here also at episode 201 of Touched by Heaven. All right, so with all that said, let's meet again here next week. Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.
And I'm just overwhelmed with peace now.